I never thought I'd find myself typing this, but here I am, trying to make sense of how my world came crashing down in a matter of days. It's been a wild ride, and I could use some input on what to do next. My wife, Liz, and I had been together for nearly 8 years. We met in college, and it felt like a fairy tale from the start. We were that couple everyone envied. Shared dreams, late-night talks, and unwavering support for each other. But lately, something felt off. It began with small things. Her late nights at work became more frequent, and she took her phone everywhere, even into the bathroom. I brushed it off as her being busy with her new job as a marketing manager. She was climbing the corporate ladder. Yet her behavior began to gnaw at me. The first real warning sign came during a dinner party at our friend's house. Liz was distant, hardly engaging with me. Her laughter only for a few jokes shared with Mike, a mutual friend. I noticed how she leaned in a little too close to him, their shoulders brushing as they exchanged stories. My gut twisted, but I convinced myself I was being paranoid. Just being friendly, I thought. A week later, I noticed something odd in our joint bank statements. A few $100s had disappeared from our savings account, labeled as dinner at La Belle. We'd never gone to that fancy place, and when I asked Liz about it, she shrugged it off, claiming she took a colleague out to celebrate a successful pitch. I wanted to believe her. She was working hard, but my instincts screamed otherwise. Then came the day I discovered the truth. I was at a local coffee shop, my usual spot for working remotely, when I overheard a conversation at the next table. 2 women were discussing an affair involving a married woman and a guy who worked with her. My ears perked up as I recognized Liz's colleague Mike, mentioned among the whispers. "He thinks he's so clever, but everyone knows," one woman said, laughing. My heart raced as I tried to tune them out, but all I could think was the connection to Liz. That evening, I confronted her. She brushed it off with a laugh, saying I was being ridiculous. "You know how office gossip is," she said, rolling her eyes. But there was a flicker of tension in her eyes, and I felt a chill run down my spine. The real bombshell dropped a few days later when I found a receipt in her coat pocket while doing laundry. It was a hotel bill dated just 3 nights prior, with a room booked under her name and Mike's. The realization hit me like a freight train. It was not just the affair, it was the betrayal of trust, the lies woven into our lives. When I confronted her again, this time with the receipt in hand, her demeanor shifted from casual dismissal to something colder. I'll never forget the way her eyes darkened when she admitted it. "It was a mistake," she said, devoid of remorse. In that moment, I felt a mix of anger and heartbreak. I had given her everything, my trust, my love, my life, and she threw it away as if it meant nothing. In the days that followed, I went through a whirlwind of emotions. Anger morphed into self-doubt as I replayed every moment in my mind, questioning everything. Was I not enough? Did I push her away? But deep down, I knew the truth. Her actions were her own. I decided to end it. I filed for divorce. It felt like the hardest thing I'd ever done, but I knew I couldn't stay in a relationship built on lies. The finality of it all stung, but oddly enough, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I was reclaiming my life, my worth. Looking back now, I can say that the experience, while horrific, taught me about resilience. It's easy to lose yourself in the darkness of betrayal, but I learned that healing is possible. I've started to focus on myself, picking up old hobbies, reconnecting with friends, even in meeting new people. It's a slow process, but I'm learning to trust again, even if it's just in small steps. If there's anything I can share with others going through a similar experience, it's this. Don't ignore your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. Confront your fears, even when they seem impossible to face. And remember, your worth isn't tied to someone else's loyalty or love. You are enough, just as you are. As I type this, I still feel the ache of betrayal, but I'm finding strength in my journey forward. Life goes on, and so will I. I never thought I'd be the guy who caught his wife cheating, but here I am sharing my story, hoping it helps someone. My wife, Lisa, and I had been married for 6 years. We were that couple. Everyone said we had it all figured out. A cute house, stable jobs, and a shared love for hiking and cooking on weekends. But over the past few months, I noticed unsettling changes. She'd get lost in her phone during dinner, take late-night work calls in another room, and suddenly needed me time. I brushed it off as stress from her job as a marketing manager, often working late. I didn't want to be that paranoid husband. One Saturday, I decided to surprise her with her favorite takeout after work. While at the restaurant, I overheard 2 women gossiping about a new guy at her office who had been making an impression. They laughed about how Lisa had been spending more time with him, and it sounded personal. My stomach dropped. Could she really be seeing someone? I convinced myself it was just office chatter, nothing to worry about. The following week, I noticed more oddities. Lisa had a new perfume, subtle yet intoxicating. Her clothes changed too. She wore a little red dress I had never seen before. When I asked about it, she dismissed it as a good deal from shopping with friends, but the nagging feeling wouldn't leave me. Then one evening, while paying a bill online, I noticed an unfamiliar hotel charge for a weekend stay. My blood ran cold. When I confronted her, she claimed it was for a work retreat, but I remember her saying she'd be home that weekend. The pieces began to form a picture I didn't want to see. A few weeks later, I ran into a friend who mentioned seeing Lisa at a bar with an unknown guy, describing them as getting cozy. My heart shattered. I couldn't ignore it anymore. The signs were piling up, and I needed the truth. When I confronted her, I tried to stay calm. I sat her down and asked about the hotel charges. Her reaction was swift. She turned pale and claimed it was a misunderstanding for a team building exercise. I pressed further, mentioning the gossip and my friend's sighting. Her demeanor shifted. She became defensive, insisting I was paranoid. That's when the weight of betrayal hit me. This wasn't the woman I loved. She was someone cold and cruel. After a tense exchange, she broke down, tears streaming down her face as she admitted to a year-long affair with a coworker. The anguish in her voice pierced me, but it felt like she was relieved to finally be honest, as if I had pushed her to this point. I felt betrayed, anger bubbling inside me, mixed with profound sadness for our life together. In that moment, all my doubts materialized. Was I not enough? Had I failed her? I knew I had to make a choice. I walked away from the conversation feeling numb, unable to look at her. I had loved this woman for years, but now all I saw was the facade cracking apart. After a week of sleepless nights and long talks with friends, I decided to file for divorce. The sense of finality was both liberating and horrifying. I moved out temporarily, processing everything. It felt surreal to think about our life together, how quickly it could vanish. Reflecting on this experience, I realized relationships need open communication. If something feels off, don't hesitate to ask questions. Trust your instincts. I spent too long ignoring red flags, convincing myself everything was fine, building walls instead of bridges. It's painful, but I'm slowly learning to trust myself again. To anyone in a similar situation, remember, you deserve honesty and respect. Don't settle for anything less, even if it breaks your heart to walk away.
I found out my wife was cheating on me through an old family friend who just happened to mention seeing her with another man at a coffee shop. It's been a wild ride of emotions since that conversation, and I feel like I'm still trying to piece everything together. We'd been married for 5 years, and our relationship felt solid. We had our ups and downs like any couple, but nothing that made me think we were in trouble. I remember our wedding day vividly. The way she smiled, the sparkle in her eyes. We built a life together, sharing everything from late-night snacks to weekend getaways. But lately, I noticed little things that made me feel uneasy. She started coming home late more often, saying she was working late or out with friends. I shrugged it off at first. Life gets busy, right? But the vibe shifted. Conversations became shorter and intimacy took a back seat. I could sense something was off, but confronting her felt like a betrayal in itself. That's when I ran into Lisa, an old friend of ours, during a casual run at the park. We exchanged pleasantries, and as we talked about life changes, she casually dropped, I saw Sarah at the brew room with a guy last week. They look pretty cozy." My heart sank. The brew room? That was our go-to place for morning coffees on weekends. I couldn't shake the image of her laughing with someone else. I tried to brush it off as a misunderstanding, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. I found myself driving past the cafe more often, hoping to catch a glimpse of her. When I finally saw her, my stomach twisted in knots. She was sitting across from a man, leaning in, laughing just like she used to with me. It was like a knife to the gut. I noticed the way she tossed her hair and caught his eye. The whole scene screamed intimacy. I felt anger bubbling up, but I didn't confront her then. I needed proof. That weekend, I rummaged through our finances, searching for anything unusual. That's when I found a series of withdrawals. $200 here, $150 there, always around the same time she claimed to be working late. I felt like I was unraveling a mystery, each piece more painful than the last. I even asked her about the expenses under the guise of reviewing our budget, and she casually brushed it off, saying it was for gifts for family and friends. I wanted to scream, but I stayed silent, gathering my thoughts. A week later, everything came to a head. I was at a mutual friend's housewarming party when I overheard Sarah chatting with one of the guests. She was talking about this amazing guy she met and how exciting it was to feel alive again. I could hardly breathe. It was like someone had flipped a switch, and all the doubts that had been simmering crashing down around me. I felt a mixture of rage and heartbreak wash over me. When I got home that night, I confronted her. I couldn't hold back any longer. "Are you cheating on me?" I asked, my voice shaking with a mixture of anger and fear. Her reaction was nothing short of chilling. At first, she laughed, as if the idea was preposterous. But then, as I laid out the breadcrumbs I had gathered, Lisa's citing, the financial discrepancies, my own observations, her expression shifted. She became defensive and evasive, throwing a ton of accusations my way about being paranoid and controlling. I felt like I was losing my mind. As the tears streamed down my face, I realized how manipulative she was being. I got angry, not just at her, but at myself for doubting my instincts for so long. "You're the one who should be ashamed," I yelled, feeling the weight of betrayal crush me. She stormed out of the room, and I could hear her crying in the bathroom, but I felt no sympathy. It was all a twisted game to her. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions. I went from shock to anger, then to overwhelming sadness. I felt like I was losing not just my wife, but the entire life I'd built. Talking to close friends helped. Some encouraged me to fight for our marriage, while others suggested it was time to let go. Deep down, I knew what I had to do. I filed for divorce a month later. The decision was excruciating, but living in that toxic environment felt like a slow death. Now, as I reflect on the past few months, I wish I could tell others to trust their gut. If something feels off, don't brush it aside. Dig deeper. You deserve to know the truth. It's painful, but knowing the reality is better than living in the shadows of doubt. I'm still working through the emotional fallout, but I'm also learning to rediscover who I am outside of a relationship. I'm starting to heal, and I know that one day I'll find a love that's genuine and built on trust. For now, I'm focusing on myself and the lessons learned from this heart-wrenching experience.